So in this final video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about animal welfare and scientific experimentation. So one of the things that this class offers is an opportunity to delve into animal welfare and when and how animals are used in experiments. And I want to clearly distinguish that the experimentation that we're going to be talking about here is not the same as the experimentation that occurs for product testing. So that is an entirely different animal, so to speak, that there are very different regulations for using animals or testing products on animals, and I'm not as familiar with those. Those would probably be some closer to some parts of the Food and Drug Administration or just some other animal welfare regulations. So I'm primarily going to be talking about animals being used in scientific experimentation. And this is a bit of a controversial topic, so opinions are entirely up to you. I'm just going to be talking about some of the laws that we have and how animals are currently used and how their welfare is protected. So again, considerable controversy remains over using animals in scientific research, and the debate really centers on issues of law, morals, custom, and biology. And so there's elements of law, what is or is not considered lawful, moral elements, is it morally right or wrong to experiment on animals, custom, again, morals also is highly influenced by custom, and so based on some customs, certain types of behaviors would be more or less allowed. And then we have finally biology, and this really means how similar the animal's biology is to our own, in which we could actually make valid conclusions that relate to humans based upon the animal's biology and physiology. So you as students encounter many experiments on animals in this course and pharmacological interventions that you may use, such as particular drugs. So these issues are important to you. Research on animals offers a way to test the basic function of neural circuits that appear to generalize to humans. So there are two important issues with using animal models. One, do animals actually contract the same neurological diseases that we do? If they do, then we would possibly be able to investigate them. So they have investigated depression, for example, and addiction. These are things that have been heavily investigated in animal models. Second, how ethical is it to use animals in research? So we're going to be talking about each of these in turn. So, do animals contract the same neurological diseases as humans? Some disorders are easy to model. For example, a stroke. This would be easy to assess the impact of a stroke on an animal and on a human, and how it can affect an animal could easily be extended to a human. But there are other disorders, such as behavioral disorders, that are more difficult. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, for example, this is a developmental disorder that is characterized by core behavioral symptoms of impulsivity, hyperactivity, and or inattention. This would be more challenging to investigate in animals. However, other behavioral disorders, such as depression and addiction, are more successfully investigated in animals. But is this ethical? So there are guidelines for the ethical use of animals in research. So the use of animals in research, teaching, and testing is acceptable only if it contributes to the understanding of environmental principles or issues, fundamental biological principles, or development of knowledge that can be reasonably expected to benefit humans, animals, or the environment. So of course, there's going to be animal research that would actually expressly be used to benefit animals, just like there's human research that's used to benefit humans. And then we also have research that's done to assess the effects of changes in the environment. And so not all animal research is invasive. Animals used in any type of research, even if it's behavioral, have very specific guidelines that need to be followed. So to give you an example of how you might assess the impact of the environment on an animal, or the impact of environment on development that you can do in an animal, but that you cannot do in a human, is there have been studies conducted again with monkeys, and they have little baby monkeys, and the monkeys will be apart from their mother, so they will be reared on their own, and they can assess the impact of of not having a mother around on the cognitive and social development of the monkey. And there, of course, also been those really interesting studies where they separate sort of this more nurturing or mothering element even from food and sustenance. And they find that even if they have mother-like sort of cloth doll for the monkeys to cuddle with, that they will spend more time with that comforting cloth doll, even if it doesn't offer any food. And if they have to move over to another object to get food, then they'll basically go over there to get that food and then return back to this cloth doll. So this tells you a lot about development and the impact of a loss of maternal figures or parental figures in general on development. And this is not an experiment that can reasonably be done on humans. We also have optimal standards for animal health and care that can result in enhanced credibility and reproducibility of experimental results. So one of the things that I want to make very clear is that animal research is by no means sort of casual or willy-nilly. There's a couple of examples of animal research in Big Bang Theory when Amy Fowler, she's a neuroscientist that does research with monkeys. And I think one thing that maybe, I'm not sure how many people know, but Amy Fowler, the actress in real life, actually does have a PhD in neuroscience. She, of course, brings her monkey home, talks about how it smokes and all that kind of stuff. That type of behavior would never, ever in a million years happen with animals in animal research. They are closely guarded. Their health care is optimally maintained. They have people that are there to help them and respond to them at all times. And their consistency of care is something that can highly influence the outcomes of experiments. And so as part of experimental integrity, then there are specific rules with regards to how animals should be kept and their behavior should be maintained so that when an experiment does occur, then you know that changes are the result of the experiment and not other possible environmental factors. For our final content for Chapter 7, there is a number of animal welfare acts that are set in place concerning the care and use of laboratory animals in the United States. This is set forth in the Animal Welfare Act. We also, in addition, have the Health Research Extension Act, which is administered by the NIH, the National Institute of Health. So both of these really address the maintenance and care of animals in research. And so they make sure that animals are cared for, that they are only used when absolutely necessary, and that what is proposed with being done, the research that is proposed on animals is appropriate. So just as we have with humans, we have this element of risk where the gains that should be obtained from the experiment should be addressing the risk of the experiment. We have a similar thing for animals, that only with the prospect of great gains can there be the importance of more risk. And to put this in context for humans, then of course you can be in a study that could have, for example, an experimental cancer treatment. Then, of course, this experimental treatment can result in great potential gains, such as treating your cancer. But then there's also the potential for risk. And so in all research, human or animal, these Animal Welfare Act and the Health Research Extension Act try to protect the rights of animals. All accredited North American universities that receive any government grant support are required to provide adequate treatment for all vertebrate animals in accordance with the Animal Welfare Act and the Health Research Extension Act. So we try to protect animals in research as much as we try to protect humans in research. And this ends Chapter 7. This is a shorter chapter, and please, before you fully exit the video, make sure that you watch the next posted video on Moodle that is an example of how MRI functions. So if you did not pause and watched earlier, please make sure that you watch it now so you can understand the basic principles of MRI research.